Hey guys, and welcome back to week 8 of the Miners Power Rankings for the National Pokeball League. Joining me today is my lovely co-host yet again, GeniusX.
Yo, what's up guys, GeniusX here, and welcome back to the NPL Miners Season 5 Week 8 Power Rankings. And you all know the drill, so without further ado, let's get straight into number 16 of our Power Rankings. And I believe we both have Cloud Envy and the Jersey Weavils at number 16.
Yeah, I believe we do. Now looking at Cloud Envy's team, he didn't really pack a solid fire resist for the Darmanitan. He had Charizard, which is weak to rocks, as well as Tentacle, which usually is a pretty decent fire resist, but when dealing with those physical fire types, it certainly isn't able to deal with them well, considering the fact that Darmanitan does have coverage to hit it as well in Earthquake. That, as well as letting its Excadrill get chipped down early on in the game, meant that it wasn't able to pressure Techno's team as much, because certainly something like a Scarf Excadrill, if he was Scarf Excadrill, could have done decently up against the Darmanitan, Zapdos, Steelix, as well as the Zydog, and even to an extent the Greninja. However, I felt like Specs Tentacle was certainly an interesting set. It was able to break decently, but not exactly the best up against Techno's team, and I felt like throughout the course of the match, he just really didn't have any momentum. He set up with the Zard, I believe, a bit too early, and that's what I believe lost in this match. He just didn't really have any response for Techno's team.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Darmanitan definitely was a huge threat towards Cloud this game. He stated that the Licky Tongue was supposed to be the Darmanitan so-called check, which honestly I don't really feel like it's a really reliable check. And even then, his only fire resist being the Tentacle, he bought a really offensive Tentacle set, which really hindered its defensive capabilities of being able to tank a Flare Blitz. And combined with the fact that Techno was able to get up so many hazards via him, his Charizard and etc. really couldn't do much against Techno's team at all. And I feel like definitely what Cloud could have done better this game was just to have better prep and not like overestimate like some of his lower tier mons. And even though Spec Tentacle is a really cool set, I feel like more defensive Tentacle was definitely necessary in that match to be able to at least tank a hit from Darmanitan at a relatively high amount, considering it was also his only like really formidable spinner, considering his extra drill couldn't really deal with most of Techno's team in mons such as Zapdos and Greninja Darmanitan.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with that. Moving on to number 15, I believe we both have Neo and his Oklahoma City Thunderous. Now, I really didn't like the first turn play that Mio did by letting his Mega Mawile get chipped down heavily by the Mega Diancie, considering the fact that Mega Mawile was a really good breakup against Owen's team. When you look at it, it could do a lot of damage to a Tangrowth as well as the Mandibuzz, and it had the Victini and check with Sucker Punch as well. However, once you let the Mega Mawile go down, I felt like there wasn't any really good breaking potential on Mio's part. Keldeo wasn't going to be breaking with Tangrowth still around. Tornadus had an alright matchup in terms of wall breaking potential. However, Owen did have the Jolteon in the back in order to check that. And honestly, he wasn't able to break down much of Owen's defensive core, and Quick Feed Jolteon actually soothing in the end game, despite it, I believe, being dual screens. Which I thought was another interesting set from Owen, and I didn't feel like Mio was able to control that as well. He certainly did get lucky, however, burning the Lucario with his Incineroar. However, I felt like due to the lack of breaking power, letting the Mega Mawile go down so quickly, as well as his lack of offense beating Owen's offense, I believe, is what lost in this match.
Yes, definitely. I felt like the Mawile play turn 1 was really so-called unnecessary. And even though I felt like Owen was probably predicting something such as a substitute or source dance, if Mio didn't really have anything to always kill the Diancie right off the bat, it was letting his only fairy resist take a huge chunk of damage on turn 1. And later in the game, it was also revealed that he had to sack his Keldeo to the Diancie because he couldn't have anything to switch into it, and that really just hurt him a lot as well, considering how well these two wall breaking are against only Not only that, as you said before, he did get pretty lucky against Lucario, as I believe it probably would have cleaned up the game at that range as well. So another thing is that he really didn't utilize his main wall breaking powers well. Was the main one being Mawa, of course. Even after attempting to sucker punch the Diancie, he really didn't get off much mileage out of the priority and sucker punch either against the Bikini. Although I guess he was fearing something such as a substitute. Although at that point, I feel like Incineroar was a very well switched in as well to the Bikini. So I felt like Marvel could have been preserved at this point in the game, as it could still come in on mons such as the Mandibus and a Tangrowth to get a potential kill or heavy damage off on something else. Other than that, I feel like there wasn't really much Mio could do, considering his main wall breaking powers were dismantled early on in the game, and I felt like a better, like, a foresight into the future during his next few games would do him more good, and that he should probably not sack his Mega Mawile turn 2 next.
Yeah, I certainly agree with those statements you just said. Now, moving on to my number 14, and I believe your number 14, we both have the Vancouver Stealth Rocks and Carney Hobo. Now, I don't feel like there's much to say in regards to this match. Carney just didn't really have a Diggersby answer, and he had to he had to basically sack off the Ferrothorn, let his Necrozma get chipped down really heavily because of his lack of Diggersby answers, as well as that he sacked the Toxapex and basically sacked off. Yeah, I do believe sacked off the Muck as well. And once the Diggersby basically broke through Carney's team, he didn't really have a way of winning this match. He did try to set up with the Necrozma, however, that wasn't really going to work considering the fact that John did have a Tornadus there. He also had Suicune, Kyurem, Snorlax, all of which could take hits from special Necrozma. He didn't really utilize the Blacephalon as well as he could have, though. I do believe that I believe that was Z Hyper Beam, if I'm not mistaken, from the Blacephalon, which I thought was an interesting bring. I felt like Never Ending Nightmare could have been a bit more better, even if there is a Snorlax there, just for hitting things like the Suicune, which is another great check to Blacephalon. But apart from that, Diggersby basically swept this team, like, from turn 1, really, and there's not much he could have done from there.
Yeah, definitely. This match was really, really unfortunate for Carney because he really didn't bring a ground resist or a immunity, so Diggersby kind of just 6-0 from turn 1. I felt like even though John did crit the Ferrothorn, I feel like it didn't really matter in this game, considering ban Diggersby 2-hit KO the Ferrothorn either way. And even though John crit, Carney knew he was banned either way, and he really didn't have a switch into EQ anywhere else. So basically, if Diggersby didn't crit, the first one would still have gotten 2-hit KO'd. And even if it did crit, Carney knew the Diggersby was banned either way, even if it didn't crit, considering only a banded Diggersby was crit can kill off the Ferrothorn. So I felt like the crit really didn't matter much on turn 1. And other than that, I felt like Carney just kind of oversighted the fact that the Diggersby was banned, so he went for the Rock Polish on the Necrozma, and that really didn't work out either. And other than and that's pretty much it for this game. Carney really didn't prep for Diggersby too well, and he kind of let the crit on turn 1 tilt him, and that was the end to this game pretty much.
Yeah, I have to agree there. For what it's worth, I have to agree with you, especially with the Ferrothorn crit. Well, it didn't actually matter because Diggersby was 2-hit KOing the Ferrothorn. He could have potentially saved the Ferrothorn and sacked something off like the Electabuzz or the Toxapex. However, I think in any case, Carney still would have lost this. Maybe not a 6-0, but certainly would have lost this match. Now moving to my number 13 and your number 14, we have Uzi and the Bullet Punch Club. Now I really like the Volcanion set. I'm not sure if Tone was aware, or rather, basically was aware of Sugarberry on the Volcanion, because I think it was an expected bring, at least I feel, because Uzi didn't really match up too well up against the Mamoswine. However, there was a lot of hacks in this match, especially on both sides of the field, but I'd say that the hacks affected Uzi more than it did Tone, because the Mew was able to freeze the Steelix, which meant that it couldn't reliably check the Pokemon it needed to check, like the Scolipede or the Bulk Up Mew. He did get a bit lucky with the Hidden Power, I believe, Ice roll with the Mega Sceptile. However, he wasn't packing the Hidden Power Flying on his Thunderous, which I believe was a misprep on his part, because he did say in his commentary that it was for the Scolipede, the Komodo, and as well as yeah, I just believe it was Scolipede and the Komodo. However, Hidden Power Flying would actually do the same amount to the Scolipede and the Komodo, as well as hit the Mega Sceptile super effectively. So that was certainly a misprep on his part. However, because of the hacks that early on that went on to the Mega Steelix, I felt like Uzi wasn't able to win this match because Tone's offense beat the rest of his team, bar Mega Steelix. However, the Mega Steelix was still not frozen, basically. Then I think Uzi would win this match.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like the freeze on Steelix was really unfortunate for Uzi. I don't want to say that the Shaco Volcano was their Night Spring. However, I don't think that Uzi really played this endgame all that well. In fact, well at all, considering I feel like he definitely could have won this game pretty convincingly with his Archeops at the end, or even a combination of his Klefki and the Archeops. So I feel like one of the first so-called misplay on Uzi's part is going for the Endeavor straight away with the Archeops. If you have something such as a Stone Edge or even hits Wing Attack or Acrobatics, depending on his set, he might have been able to actually kill off the Zoroark. And even though that didn't happen, he could have still gone Kyurem first instead of the Archeops, because as you can see later in the game, it guaranteed a Focus Blast, and it could have put the Zoroark in range of any attack from the Archeops, and even or perhaps even outright kill the Zoroark. So I feel like Uzi definitely could have played the end game much different than what he actually did, and that would also have let him win the game. However, the freeze on the Helix was really unfortunate, and I feel like to have like a more solid chance of winning his next few games, Uzi just needs to be able to make sure not to misplay in the end game, and with his incredible draft, I feel like he can definitely pick up a few more wins in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I certainly do believe in Uzi being one of the better players in the league so far. And keep sticking to the theme of this match, we do have Tone and his main red Clovitzers. I believe we both have him at number 12. I think Tone played this one all right. He didn't exactly play this extremely out of his capabilities. The poison on the Primarina was a bit unfortunate because that meant that Sludge Bomb was 2KOing from the Volcanion, that is. I'm not too sure if he was aware of the Sugarberry from the Mamoswine. I felt like he could have probably went out into something like the Mega Sceptile if the Volcanion, well, maybe not the Mega Sceptile, but certainly into something else that could have taken advantage of the Volcanion, potentially even a Zoroark, or even Bulk Up Mew, even though that would be a bit riskier. He was able to play around the Volcanion though. The freeze on the Steelix was fortunate on his part, because that meant that he had a higher chance of winning the match in the end game, as well as that the roll on the Thunderous was a bit unfortunate on his part as well. However, he was able to, I believe, kill it. Yeah, I believe he was able to kill it. And I think he played this end game really well. I think the main thing that won him this end game was honestly just the freeze on the Mega Steelix. But using that hacks, he was still able to play it well enough to the point where he was able to eventually get a win in the end game.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Tone really misplayed on early game in this match, but did manage to pick things up back late game by using advantage of his freeze on the Steelix. Definitely he sacked way too much Mons against the Volcanion. I don't feel like he played or prepped against that Mon too well. And even though he U-turned into the Primarina, I don't think Primarina can actually do much to the Volcanion either, because of the fact that its main two stabs, one is resisted and the other is non-effective at all. So the best thing it could probably do is probably a Psychic or maybe a Purse Song. But as you can see, Sludge Bomb did without the crit, it would have been a straight KO. So I don't know what Primarina could have done to the Volcanion either. Maybe put it in range of Mamoswine, but again, we never know. And other than that, I felt like Tone could have played around the Volcanion much better. But in the end game, he definitely managed to use what he had remaining to be able to pick up the win. And other than that, there's really not much to say about this game. Thomas played against the Volcano early game, but managed to pick it up late game. And even though it was an unfortunate freeze for Uzi on the... Oh, it was the freeze. But yeah.
Now moving on to, I believe both of our number 11s, we have Illusion and his LA Venusaurs. Now, I thought that turn 1 was a very crucial turn, setting the tone for the match, Zeden earthquaking the Empoleon as the Empoleon went for the Hydro Pump. But looking at Illusion's team, he didn't really have much for the Azelf. He had the Gligar, which could potentially tank a few hits. However, I believe it was more Fizz Def this match, meaning that it was actually being 2 KO'd by the Psychic. The Sceptile plays up against the Azelf were interesting. I understand the pursuit, and if he did get that 50-50 right with the Azelf, then he certainly would have been in a better position. However, I felt like he wasn't really able to take advantage of that. The Azelf getting chipped, that is. He let his Vileplume go down to the, I believe, Z-Zat cannon in electric terrain, which I'm not sure if he expected, but certainly was able to get rid of the Vileplume, which meant that things like the Landorus, the Scizor could have a better time in the endgame. And because of the Scarf, Rose Raid, that is, Zeden was able to revenge his Coco relatively easily with the Sludge Bomb. And by the time that rolled around, I felt like Illusion had no chance of winning the match because with Infernape and Gligar, he didn't really have a way of winning the match, that is. He didn't have a wing con because Zeden had a Zelp in the back that could always check the Infernape, and Zeden also had the Scizor, the Landers that could also beat the Gligar 1v1. And I felt like Illusion didn't really play well in this match. He didn't really prep the best, especially for that itself, letting his Empoleon get chipped down quite early in the match as well. Meant that, Azelf basically tore apart his team in the endgame.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like Illusion definitely could have played better this game. I'm really not sure what happened with turn 1 because I thought Hydro Pump would have done more to the Landorus, but that was not the case. Other than that, he really didn't manage to pressure the Azelf well enough. He attempted to go for the pursuit with it on the Sceptile, however, I don't think the Azelf is too scared of a regular Sceptile, so I don't think that play really worked out for Illusion. And because of that, I don't think he really had a way to deal with the Azelf. And other than that, he really did get kind of destroyed by Zac Cannon Electrode. He attempted to go for a Tapu Koko and Tapu Koko Brave Bird into the Rose Raid, but because of Zeden's unexpected bring in the Electrode, I don't think Illusion prepped much for it at all, so I don't think the Tapu Koko can actually touch the Electrode. And I felt like underestimating some of Zeden's lower tier threats cost Illusion this game during prep. So after Illusion's main threats went down, there really wasn't much he could do to bring this game back, and he just got overwhelmed by Zeden's Electrode and Azelf this game.
Yeah, just one thing to note, the Landorus was actually, I believe, a bulky Assault Vest variant, and I believe it was EV to take any hit from Empoleon bar something like a Specs variant, which would have been very weird on Illusion's part. But moving on to, I believe, both of our number 10s, we have Keegan and his Olympic Flygon. Now, looking at this matchup, Keegan really didn't have much for the Nihilego. He had the Seismitoad as well as the Skarmory, potentially Spadef's variant. However, he let these Seismitoad get chipped down relatively early in the match through the Tapu Fini as well as the Heatran and the Megaladios, I believe. As well as that, he let his Skarmory get chipped down as well, which really was detrimental for his cause because he wasn't able to check the Nihilego because the only things he had to outspeed it were the Yanmega after a speed boost, which isn't really touching a Nihilego too much unless it's HB ground, which it actually was. However, as well as that, he also had the Gengar, which wasn't really doing much to Nihilego considering the fact that it was an Assault Vest Nihilego. So I felt like Keegan wasn't really able to keep the Nihilego in good check once he let his Seismitoad get killed, as well as letting his Boufflon get chipped down a bit. I'm not too sure what the Boufflon set was, but I'm assuming it would either be Assault Vest or Choice Banded. But in the end, he just lost to Nihilego because he wasn't able to preserve his Seismitoad.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like even though Keegan preserved his Seismitoad early on the game, I do believe Turbo had Grass Knot. Don't quote me on this, but maybe most likely Turbo had Grass Knot, and that would still have been able to clean up the game in the end. I felt like Keegan definitely didn't prep as well as Nihilego, as he probably thought he did this game, and other than that, there's really not much. Look at Keegan's team preview. His only rock resist is the Seismitoad, which kind of gets destroyed by Grass Knot on its window, meaning that it can't really switch in either if it gets predicted on his sack father next turn. And other than that, he just got overwhelmed by Turbo's Nihilego, and there wasn't really much he could do early game as well, allowing Turbo to set up his rocks with his Crocodile. And other than that, there wasn't much to say about this game. He was able to put on some good offensive pressure with the Boufflon later on the Tapu Fini, but in the end, his Turbos and Helgo could just come in on too many things, such as the Gengar, a weakened Skarmory, or even the Mega. So there really wasn't much I don't think he could have done in this game. So maybe during prep he could have maybe prepped something along the lines of a more Hitmontop, I guess, but that would have been because a Mach Punch from Hitmontop into maybe a Bullet Punch from Medicham would have killed the Nihilego even Super Buri. But other than that, I don't think Keegan really had much for the Nihilego, and that's what's cost him a game.
Now moving on to, I believe, both of our number 9s, we have the Connecticut Cobalions. Now looking at the matchup, Duscloth up against his team was had a really decent matchup, being able to check the Mega Aerodactyl, the Acelgor, the Donphan, the Dugtrio, as well as get a Toxic on the Manaphy early game, which is really crucial for him, despite him running Rain Dance. However, I felt like he wasn't really able to deal with Jake's offensive pressure in the Scarf Garchomp, as well as things like the Shaman naturally checking the Manaphy. He was able to utilize Dugtrio relatively decently by trapping the Scarf Chomp, as well as keeping up offensive momentum with his own Pokemon, such as, again, the Dugtrio and the Sneasel. However, in the endgame, the Mega Kangaskhan set really caught him off guard. I believe that was Work Up Surf, which was able to 2-hit KO the Donphan cleanly. And Dugtrio wasn't able to revenge the Mega Kangaskhan due to its really good bulk. And that's, I believe, what lost in this match. He wasn't able to deal with the Mega Kangaskhan a lot, and by the time he got to the end game, he really only had the Mega Aerodactyl and Sneasel in the back, which Jake's team, consisting of Dusclops, Alakazam, and Shaman at the end, was able to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Felt like I could definitely have prepped and played better this game. I feel like he under prepped for the Dusclops a lot because the Dusclops was a hard wall to the Aerodactyl and its main offensive threats. And other than that, he wasn't really able to deal with Demon such as Shaman, with its Manaphy, etc. And if you look at I's draft, his main switching to a grass type move is the Acelgor, which was a Life Orb variant, if I believe. It was a Life Orb variant, so he really had no switch-ins to a Seafarer at all. His Aerodactyl, Donphan, Dugtrio, and Manaphy probably all died, and his Sneasel was way too frail to take a Seafarer. So if the Shaman managed to come in on something such as a Donphan, Dugtrio, or a slow Manaphy, then he pretty much just lost them on. So definitely felt like I's prep was his downfall this match, and Jake was able to take advantage of that, which is really good prep this game, and stuff such as Shakajirashi, Dusclops, work up Surf Kangaskhan, and just overwhelm I's draft in general.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Now moving on to my number 8, and I believe your number 7, we have the Toronto Luxray, and Turkey. Now looking at the matchup, Terrakion seemed to really put in work up against Turk's team. His only rock resist being that Bronzong. However, he was able to, he did unfortunately get it chipped down due to the fact that Hypertoad was running close combat, meaning that he was able to punish the only potential rock resist to a potential rock Z set, which I believe he was. I thought the trick Iron Ball was really cool prep on Turk's part, being able to cleanly knock out the Pile of Swine after a bit of chip. And as well as tricking it up against the Autotomy Celestial, meaning that it couldn't really set up or boost its speed well enough to the point where it could potentially sweep Turk's team. However, I felt because of his lack of checks up against Terrakion, as well as its superior speed stat, if you look at Turk's team, it was able to outspeed everything in his team, bar the Mega Houndoom, as well as, of course, the Map Punch priority from the Breloom. But as soon as he was able to, as soon as Hiker was able to take advantage of the Terrakion through the mid to end game, I felt like that's what really caused Turk to lose this match. He didn't have a good Terrakion response on his team, and he played the end game all right, but I certainly do think that the Hydro Pump miss on the Houndoom wasn't really crucial, but he could have probably done. He probably could have played the end game better, to put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. What I would want to say this match is definitely the fact that he didn't have a good check to the Terrakion, as you said, and other than that, I don't think he had a really good switch in to the what do you call it, the Zard Eater. Was it Andy Rotom? After the Goodra went down, the Rotom kind of just went ham against Turk's team as well. But the Zard was also pretty to Turk's team, considering the switch in is the Silvally Rock, which is probably fully Fistef. But if you look at Hiker's team, they have the Celesteela, Terrakion, Piloswine, Decidueye, and the Rotom Wash, and all of those pretty much just destroy your Silvally Rock. So I definitely felt like he didn't really prep well for Hiker's defensive threats. And other than that, he just got overwhelmed by Hiker previously stated, with Terrakion being the main one, of course. And him opting to go for Rock's early game with his Bronzong, that it got chipped down hugely, and that meant that he had no more Stone Age switch-ins, and wasn't really able to get him out of the rest of his mons, and he just lost to Decidueye, the Terrakion. Also sacked his Breloom to the Brave Bird Decidueye, and which I felt like he could have done something different. He could have maybe gone into the Silvally Rock, and then maybe pivoted into the Houndoom, or maybe even just sacked the Silvally in itself, because he definitely needed the Breloom, in my opinion, in the end game, because if Hiker's Scarf Rotom didn't have HP flying or something like that, it could have cleaned up the late game with Mach Punch onto the Terrakion and Bullet Seed onto the Rotom. So I definitely felt like the Breloom could have been useful late game, and even if Hiker decided to lock himself into HP flying, then potentially a late game late game Houndoom from Turk's side can also win the game. So yeah, that is it for Turk.
Now moving on to, I believe, my number 7 and your number 8, we have John W. and his Indiana Caldeos. Now there is, again, similar to how we were talking with Carney, there isn't really much to say about this match. Choice Banded Diggersby just broke through Carney's team, and once he was able to chip down the Necrozma, kill the Toxapex, Ferrothorn, and Alolan Muck with the Diggersby, there was no way John was losing bar massive choking, which I don't believe no one on this earth would be able to choke that bad from such a good position. And he was able to preserve the 6-0, which is really good for potential playoff spots and differential, which I think is good on his part, considering the fact that he didn't actually have to risk losing in order to get the 6-0. But overall, just really solid prep on his part. Choice Banded Diggersby just clean through Carney's team.
Yeah, as you said, there really isn't much to say about this part. I would have definitely liked to see some of his other sets as well, but as you said, Choice Band Diggersby, he has no ground resist. That's it pretty much. Other than that, I feel like maybe he could have the one thing he could have maybe done differently was I'm not sure, not lead up with Diggersby, I guess, and save it for late game. But like, in case Carney let off with a blue Cephalon or something. But there really wasn't any reason not to lead off with Diggersby. As you can see, at just 6-0. So really, not much to say about this game. He prepped well, realizing that Carney didn't have solid ground immunities or resists, and he took advantage of that and just went ham with his Diggersby turn 1.
Yeah, for what it's worth, if I felt like Diggersby was probably his best lead, considering the fact that I don't believe Necrozma has anything in its arsenal to Oko Diggersby apart from the Z move, which he could have potentially scouted. I don't believe Electabuzz is ever Okoing into Diggersby as well, unless it's something like Choice Specs, Focus Blast, which again he could have scouted, and I don't believe Cephalon's Okoing a Diggersby unless it's Choice Banded, not Choice Banded, Choice Specs, Fire Blast, or Mind Blown, or even Z Mind Blown, more than likely. But yeah, there isn't really much to comment about this game. Just Diggersby just did Diggersby things. Now moving on to my number 6, and I believe your number 5, we have Jake and his Tech Frokies. Now I really liked some of the brings in this match. Scarf Garchomp was really good up against the Kinetic Cobalions because of its ability to check the Selgor, check the Manaphy, as well as outspeeding the Doug Trio, dealing with a lot of the Cobalions' offense, as well as I really like the Dusclops bring. I thought that was really, really good. I feel like Dusclops is one of the more underrated, bulkier ghost types in the format. There's Kofagrigus, really, and that's about it. But as a lower tier pick, I felt like it's a really good mon to utilize, and I felt like Jake used it really well, being able to scout out the Manaphy set with the Dusclops, determining that it was Rain Dance, so he knew that something like his Shaman would be able to easily check the Manaphy. Apart from that, he didn't really have to make too many aggressive plays in this match in order to win. The Mega Kangaskhan set really put in work up against the Cobalions, being able to kill the Donphan, kill the Doug Trio, and basically forcing the Sneasel, which was really good. And by the time he got to the end game, he didn't have to play it aggressively. He just had enough mods in order to beat the Cobalions' remaining roster.
Yes, definitely. I really, really like Jake's prep this game. With the fact that utilizing stuff such as Shaman, Work Up, Kangaskhan, and one thing I really like about Work Up Kangaskhan as well is if it managed to come in maybe a defensive Manaphy or something, you could utilize the Rain as well to boost his surf damage. The Dusclops was a really, really good bring, and it was pretty much a dedicated wall to the Aerodactyl. And other than that, there really isn't much to say about this game, considering how dominant his prep was this game. I really, really like the Shakajirachi as well, because it could have potentially lured maybe a potential Selgor lead, because as a Selgor lead, you have to fear the Scarf Jirachi. So something like a Rocks lead could have been really, really good, and that's exactly what he brought this game. And other than that, there really isn't much to talk about because of how well his prep was this game. And he just utilized it well during the game as well, and I do believe that's what won him the game.
Yes, now moving on to my number 5 and your number 6, we have Lord Zedon and his Tulsa Excadrills. Now, I really like the AV Lander set. It was able to sponge a hit from Napoleon early on, as well as being able to check the likes of potential special Sceptile, as well as a mixed, if not a fully special, or even fully physical Inferno, which was a really good bring. I thought he used Azov really well in this matchup, being able to preserve it enough so that it would be able to offensively pressure the likes of the Inferno, which was a relatively decent threat up against his team. Apart from Landis, he really didn't have much ways of a response to it. And he was able to preserve the Azov in the end. I really like the Electro bring, especially the Z-Zat cannon, realizing the potential to take advantage of the electric terrain with the Z move as well as using Z-Zat cannon as well, which is a higher base power than I'm assuming Z Thunderbolt, as well as Z Thunder. And I feel like by the time he got to the end game with the Gligar and the Inferno, he really didn't have to play too aggressively. His prep and his play in the early to mid game, I believe, is what won him this match. By the time he got to the end game, again, he didn't really have to play aggressively. He had all his mons in check, and he had all Illusions mons in check as well.
Yeah, definitely. He really played well with his Landris early game, managing to tank a Hydro Pump from the Empoleon. And the Electrode and the Azel pretty much just cleaned up the game. His Electrode was a really cool stat, as you said, being the Z-Zap Cannon. It was able to take out the Vileplume and pretty much just wall the Tapu Koko as well, because I don't think the Legion expected it as well as at all. And I feel like even if he didn't have these two mons, he would have a good chance to win this game either way, considering how dominant his Clef was, because it was CM Clef. And with Vagpum being gone, I do feel like that set would have just 6-0 the Legion as well. So I feel like combination of lures and prep this game for Zedon really helped him, because as you can see, Z-Zap can also utilizes his opponent's electric terrain to take out his main check for the Clefable. So ultimately, I feel like it was really good prep. He utilized it well in the game, and that is what won him the game comfortably this snap.
Yeah, now moving on to our top four and kicking us off, I believe in both of our number four spots we have Owen and his Leinster Latios. Now I really I'm not entirely sure about the first turn play, letting his Diancie getting weakened from the potential Iron Head Maul, even though Mio did go for the play rough, because um, Mega Diancie, if you look at Mio's team, it matched up really well. It was able to potentially 2KO Incineroar, potentially definitely 2KO the Keldeo, potentially 2KO the Mega Mawile as well with Earth Power, and being able to check a lot of Mio's threats as well if it was at full HP, especially something like an unboosted Rabombi or a Tornadus Incarnate lacking steel coverage. However, another thing I will like to criticize, even though it isn't necessarily his actual fault, is not making his Tangrowth Regenerator. Certainly do check your Mons before you end up battling your opponents, but that isn't really criticism of his actual building or playing ability much, just more of just being smart, I guess. But he was able to really control the game, even in the mid game. Despite the Mega Diancie being on, I believe, like 12%, he was able to pick up a few kills with it, obtain offensive momentum with it, and he was able to keep Jolteon in the back as well, which is really good considering the fact that it really helped up against Mio's offense, checking the likes of the Tornadus Incarnate, the Rabombi, as well as pressuring the Hypno as well, and as well as potentially the Incineroar. I thought dual screens was interesting for setting up with the Lucario, and it was a bit unfortunate about the Fire Blast burn hacks. However, it is Pokemon, you can't really do much about it. And the Jolteon in the end game was able to do enough to win him the match.
Yeah, definitely. Owen played really well this game, even though he did kind of well, not necessarily misplay, but did risk his Diancie turn 1. However, I feel like he definitely had the upper hand most of this game, being able to weaken Mio's primary Starbreaker in the Mawile, and then he was able to clean up the game with his Jolteon, as you said. And there really isn't much to say about this game. His mons pretty much just overwhelmed Mio's more weaker mons in Hypno and Incineroar after Mio's Mawile went down. So I do believe a trade in Diancie and Mawile was understandable, considering if he got Earth Power damage off of Mawile, it becomes much less prominent in being able to tank something like a Thunderbolt from a Jolteon or even a HP Fire from a Tangrowth if he had it, or like Earthquake. And then something like Foul Play Manibus could have had a much easier time dealing with that as well. So overall, I feel like he played really well this game, and there really isn't much to say about this.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Especially with the top four, I believe like most of these rankings are pretty straightforward. But moving on to my number 3 and your number 2, we have Hiker Toad and his Boston Bulldogs. Now, I really liked Hiker Toad's prep in this match, realizing that Bronzong was really the only response to a Z Stone Edge from Terrakion, so it was packing the substitute in order to take advantage of Turk potentially playing a bit too passively up against it if it wanted to go for something like Stealth Rocks. And he was able to get the Terrakion chip down really well. I don't think he expected the Gyro Ball damage doing that much to the Piloswine. I certainly wouldn't. However, he was able to play around it decently well. I think at that point, if he realized that it was Iron Ball, um, on the Bronzong, that is, I don't think that setting up an Autotomize up against it would have been the smartest play, because if your opponent's running Iron Ball, I'm assuming you're more than likely, you know, going to expect a trick or a switcheroo from it. However, he was able to chip down the Gudra and get rid of it, which meant that Scarf, Rotom, Wash in the endgame looked really well. He was also able to chip down the he was also able to chip down the Bronzong with his Terrakion well enough to the point where Turk really didn't have a response to Scarf Rotom. His best resist to Rotom's stabs would have been the Breloom, but Breloom in this match couldn't afford to be chipped down. And he was able to play around Breloom really decently as well with Decidueye, because if you look at Hiker's team, it naturally struggles up against Breloom, as well as to an extent Landorus, because, well, not Landorus, certainly, but certainly Breloom and Mega Houndoom, and he was able to play around both of those threats really well. And in the endgame, I thought the Scarf Rotom was really good as well. I don't think he should have pressed the Hydro Pump up against the Houndoom, because that could have potentially given Turk a potential to win the match if the Volt Switch wasn't doing enough at 50% to the Houndoom. However, I think certainly this is a convincing win for Hiker.
Yeah, definitely. Because utilizing his Terrakion and his main wall-breaking core was just really well played by Hiker. And other than that, he was able to take out the mandatory threats for him to win the game with his Scarf Rotom, because he was able. The first one that he took out was the Gudra, and that pretty much just allowed Rotom to go ham via Turk. And he also managed to weaken the Bronzong early game as well. So he was able to let Terrakion pretty much just roam free throughout the match. And other than that, I felt the only potential misplay, or maybe it's not even a misplay, it's just like a hindsight thing, is that he probably shouldn't have set up Autotomize on the Trick Iron Ball Bronzong, but then again, I don't think anyone would have expected that. So, yeah, there really isn't much to say about this game. Haiku utilized his Mons well. He was able to kill off the checks to his cleaners early game, and he was able to clean up the game with Scarf Rotom. The Braver prep from the Decidueye was really close well, because it was able to take out the Breloom, which could have been really threatening to him if Turk decided to preserve it. So
yeah, I do agree with that. Moving on to my number 2 and your number 3, we have It's Turbo and his Phoenix Midnights. Now, looking from Team Preview, as already stated before, Hallu had a really good matchup. However, Turbo was able to play this match at the point where he was able to weaken or kill off the Seismitoad, weaken the Skarmory, to the point where AV9 Hallu just basically swept through Keegan's team. There wasn't really much Keegan could have done in order to prevent it. He did have the hidden power ground on the Yanmega, as well as Gengar obviously outspeeding it. However, Turbo really prepped well with his team in general, being able to pressure Keegan's fat with the likes of Calmine Latios, as well as the Lapras as well, and as well as obviously the Taunt Rocks Crocodile, which was able to pressure the Seismitoad and the Skarmory despite it being burned relatively early in the match. However, as I already said, he was able to dispose of the Seismitoad, weaken the Skarmory to the point where Nihilego was basically able to sweep past Keegan's team. And I thought that Assault Vest Nihilego was a really good bring on his part, considering the fact that if you look at his team, he didn't really have the sturdy response to the likes of Gengar and certainly Yanmega as well. So I thought overall that set was really good, and a really good win for Turbo in general.
yeah, definitely. His Babiri Nihilego was really cool prep to be able to counter the only possible revenging option was Keegan's Bella Punch Medicham, and I was really interested to see what the what do you call that thing? Lapras would do, even though it didn't do much this game. Other than that, he was able to put up game because he was able to ensure that rocks were set up, and that pretty much just allowed Turbo to go ham with his Nihilego. And other than that, he was able to weaken the Seismitoad, as we previously stated, being Keegan's only rock resist, and it was most likely so being able to weaken that was huge as well. Even kill it before Nihilego came in onto the field. And other than that, there isn't much to say. He managed to get in Nihilego on the right time on the Gengar, and he was able to just clean up the game with Power Jam, and Dazzling game.
Yeah, I do agree with that. One thing I'd like to note is I accidentally said AV. I thought it was AV from the match, but it was just Nightheligo's superior Spadef bulk, being able to tank the hits from Yanmega and Gengar. Now moving on to the undisputed number one so far, it is Techno and his Carolina Pantherians. Now, I feel like Techno was basically in control of the match from start to end. He had the Zapdos that was able to weaken down the Excadrill. He had the Darmanitan in the back, which was basically able to sweep past Cloud Envy's team. He didn't really have a sturdy response to a Flare Blitz from Darmanitan, as well as he was able to get a Rock so that the Charizard could be chipped at the point where it was one-hit KO'd by the Flare Blitz, because I do believe Charizard from full can potentially take one Flare Blitz, even though it'd be severely chipped down. It'll probably take like around about 70 to 80%. However, he was able to get the Rocks up, I believe the Steelix. He was able to maintain Rocks as well, which is really good. He was able to play around the Specs Tentacle really decently as well. He was able to utilize Greninja really well. However, I do think he could have probably pulled the trigger up against the Bulu a lot more early. He decided not to go for the Gunk Shot. I do understand that Gunk Shot can miss. However, if you are running Gunk Shot on your Greninjas, you should always go for it up against the Bulu. And apart from that, yeah, just a really convincing win in Techno's part, and that's the reason why he's number one.
Yeah, so there really isn't much to say about this game. Darmanitan Peru just flipped to Klaus' team. So other than that, I really liked his prep in terms of bringing something such as the physical Greninja to be able to deal with the likes of Tentacruel and the Tapu Bulu. He was able to deal well against the, even though it was unexpected. There isn't much to say. He was able to weaken the set of hazards, and with that, his Darmanitan was able to just clean up the game. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this match. So and with that, that is going to bring an end to our NPL Minor Season 5 Week 8 Power Rankings. Hope you all enjoyed. Definitely be sure to check out all the coaches and analysts down below. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely press the thumbs up button and support us further. And with that, BM, do you have any last words?
No, again, check out all the coaches, both majors and minors. Be sure to check out all the analysts linked down below, as well as the Discord, as well as fan documents as well. I believe those are getting updated pretty soon. To my knowledge, they should be updated to the current weeks of both majors and minors in a few days. And apart from that, nothing else to say.